From 1877 to 1889, the United States faced a basic question. What kind of country was it going to become? The Civil War was over. Reconstruction was ending. The 20th century was still somewhere over the horizon. In between came 12 years of factories, railroads, political corruption, racial violence, enormous fortunes, bitter strikes, and Americans trying to figure out what all this supposed progress actually meant. We begin in 1877. Reconstruction came to an end when federal troops withdrew from the South. For Black Americans, the consequences were enormous. The federal government stepped away from enforcing many of the protections established after the Civil War. Southern white Democrats regained control of state governments. Black voters faced intimidation, violence, and increasingly aggressive efforts to push them out of political life. The Jim Crow system was beginning to take shape. A country that had fought a war over slavery was already retreating from many of the promises made during Reconstruction. That happened remarkably fast. At the same time, the American economy exploded. Railroads stretched across the continent. Steel mills roared. Factories swallowed thousands of workers. Cities grew upward and outward. America was becoming an industrial giant, and industrial giants have large appetites. Corporations grew bigger. Railroad companies accumulated tremendous power. Wealth collected in fewer hands while workers often faced 12-hour days, dangerous machinery, low wages, and very little protection when something went wrong. Sometimes they threw themselves on the cogs of the industrial economy. In 1877, railroad workers launched one of the largest strikes the country had ever seen. The Great Railroad Strike spread from city to city. Trains stopped, crowds filled the streets, state militias and federal troops moved in, and, as predicted, people died. The message was difficult to miss. Industrial America was going to make enormous amounts of money, and Americans were already fighting over who would receive it. Labor organizations grew during the 1880s. The Knights of Labor became one of the most powerful. Workers demanded shorter hours, better pay, safer workplaces, and some control over lives increasingly dictated by factory whistles and railroad schedules. Then came another fight. Race. The promises of Reconstruction were collapsing across the South. In 1883, the Supreme Court struck down major portions of the Civil Rights Act of 1875. The decision weakened federal protection against racial discrimination in public accommodations. Segregation began to gain ground. Black Americans continued organizing, voting where they could, building churches, schools, businesses, newspapers, and communities while confronting a political system that was steadily closing doors around them. Then there was the Gilded Age. The name tells you almost everything. Gilding is a thin layer of gold placed over something less impressive underneath. America had mansions, railroads, electric lights, department stores, enormous corporations, and men accumulating fortunes almost beyond imagination. It also had tenements, child labor, industrial accidents, political machines, and workers living one missed paycheck away from disaster. And even though the country glittered, sometimes you needed to scratch the surface. Writers began doing exactly that. Mark Twain helped give the era its name. Novelists and journalists turned toward realism, writing about ordinary people and the strange new world created by industrial capitalism. They held up a mirror, and America did not always enjoy what it saw. By 1889, the United States had become richer, more industrial, more urban, and increasingly powerful. Railroads connected distant markets. Factories produced goods on a staggering scale. Immigration transformed American cities. New technology changed how people worked, traveled, communicated, and lived. The price was substantial. Reconstruction had collapsed. Racial segregation was spreading. Workers and corporations were colliding in increasingly violent confrontations. The gap between immense wealth and grinding poverty sat right in the middle of American cities for everyone to see. That is why this period matters. Many arguments that would dominate the next century were already underway. Who should control the economy? What does citizenship actually guarantee? How much power should corporations possess? What responsibility does government have toward workers? And perhaps the oldest American question of all, when the country promises equality, who does it actually mean? From 1877 to 1889, Americans did not settle those questions, and the next generation would inherit the fight.